Hello, my lovely family members out there. I've got a video for you today regarding a hearing down at the state capitol tomorrow on cannabis products. And as I am Azimuth, coming from Science Under Nature, and we produce hemp and we also create products as well. This does affect myself and pretty much anybody else that is in the hemp industry, the recreational industry, and you, the consumer, as well, if you would like to access products that actually have a high medicinal quality and amount of possible THC or CBD to them. So let's get into this. January 30th, tomorrow, there's going to be a hearing regarding SB State Senate Bill 5367. An act relating to the regulation of products containing THC, amending RCW 15-140, 020, 6950, 326, and 6950, 346, reenacting and amending RCW 6950-101, and adding a new section to Chapter 6950 RCW. It's a whole bunch of ridiculous letters and words, but there's so many pieces of paper and bills that they do that this is how many numbers we need. All right, let's get you the bill parts. At the beginning of the bill, Senate Bill 5367, there is some information that is not as much pertaining to what we're about to talk about. So I'm going to skip past that little section and begin reading it. Licensed cannabis producers and licensed cannabis processors may use a CBD product obtained from a source not licensed under this chapter. What they mean is, they mean hemp producers here. So what they're talking about is they're going to be talking about regulating the amount of THC that is going to be allowed in any product. Now, there's a little bit of confusion here, because the confusion comes with the fact that they are talking about the medical marijuana or the dispensary 502 industry, yet the vocabulary needs to be much more clarified, because there's such simple confusion in the ways that they broad base all of their language. Even though they try and pinpoint things, the way that they word things oftentimes makes it so that it can be overreaching and used later on for their needs and desires, which do affect us in a negative way. Most often because it's the government. All right. Provided the CBD product has a THC level of 0.03%, which is the standard, all right, or less on a dry weight basis, and is not cannabis or a cannabis product. So they're also saying that this isn't going to help it's not going to affect the hemp producers, that the cannabis producers, even though that's confusing because we're all cannabis producers, industrial hemp, marijuana, seed growing, oil growing, flower growing, textile growing, all of them, it's all cannabis L sativa. I don't care what anybody says, it's all one plant. And sativa doesn't mean it's cannabis. Sativa means it's been domesticated. It's been utilized by us for thousands of years. We have moved it with us. There is Avena sativa, which is from oats. There's Nigella sativa, which is an amazing black seed cumin oil. So there's a lot of confusion around vocabulary and words. So what's what we mean matters so much here. So what they mean under this is that a 502 product under state marijuana regulations is supposed to be being affected by this, but the confusion comes with the question of, is it going to affect hemp producers as well and hemp products? All right, back to this. As defined in this chapter, is not a hemp, if it's not a hemp consumable as defined in RCW 15-140 or 20, and has been tested for contaminants and toxins by laboratory testing accredited under this chapter, and in accordance with testing standards established under this chapter and applicable administrative. Of course, everybody tests their products. There's plenty, I'm sure, of people out there that don't want to spend the money on testing, or they falsify testing, or they're making products and they don't really care about the testing so much, and so they just put out products. Now that is a case, and that's up to you, the consumer, to actually find products that you trust, that you use, that work for you, that you know who makes the products, that you know who makes the products. You got to be able to put faces to the names, not just these big brands with anybody making them. You need to have a connection to your products. This is subject to the requirements of this subsection 3. The board may enact rules. Here's the important part. The board may enact rules necessary to implement the requirements of this section. Such rulemaking is limited to regulations pertaining to laboratory testing and product safety standards for those cannabidiol products used by licensed producers. So in other words, isolates and other distillates and ingredients that are CBD that are being used by the medical dispensary cannabis industry. Products used by licensed producers and processors in the manufacture of cannabis products marketed by licensed retailers under this chapter. The purpose of such rulemaking must be to ensure the safety and purity of cannabidiol products used by cannabis producers and processors licensed under this chapter and incorporated into products sold by licensed recreational cannabis retailers. Even if I read this straight through, it still sounds really confusing. She's still going like, what are they really trying to do? So I'm going to clarify this a little bit with the notification that I got from a wonderful friend, Bonnie Jo Peterson, who is part of the Washington State Hemp Association Board. And she notified all of us, even though it's a day before, get the information out there, even if it's 24 hours before, even if it's 12 hours before. If you've got something that you care about, get it out to the people, please, get it out there. And so Bonnie Jo wrote us this morning, sent out an email to everybody who's a grower. The Washington State Liquor and Cannabis Board has an agency bill, SB 5367, that would limit CBD hemp consumable products to 1 milligram per serving size and 3 milligrams per container that the Industrial Hemp Association of Washington, IHEMPAWA, is strongly opposed to in its current form. This bill would eliminate full spectrum hemp products over 3 milligrams per container of THC. The average full spectrum hemp product, now we're talking about hemp products, CBD products that we make, the average full spectrum hemp product is 2.5 milligrams per serving of THC with 50 milligrams of CBD. It has all other hemp metabolites. So what they're saying here is that the usual dosage that you're going to get when you're taking in a full spectrum product, not a CBD product, CBD isolate product, is not going to have any THC, right? So it's totally safe if you can't have THC. But if you are having a full spectrum product, which you may love those, because if you know that you work well with THC, it's going to bring the synergy of the whole plant. Plus it is the whole plant. Nature intended things to be whole plant. That's why we have such issues with pharmaceuticals, because things have been isolated not only from a natural form, but an artificial form. And they are now the artificial form being recreated, which is consistency, yes, but because it's not in the full plant form and not the real thing, it relays all of these side effects that you do not want, because nature, these plants out here, they all support each other and take care of you if you use them wisely and responsibly. Okay, so there's a hearing tomorrow. Senate Labor and Commerce Committee is scheduled for Monday, 1:30, January 30th at 10:30 a.m. I will be down there giving my in-person testimony to tell them my thoughts upon this. And my thought is obviously a con, which please sign up if you can. Below, the information will be here or above. Please sign up to testify as con in opposition with us, and let everyone know that you can sign in to testify virtually or in person for the SB 5367 hearing by 9 a.m. tomorrow on Monday, or back then, if you're reading this, watching this afterwards, before the hearing at 10:30 a.m. You can also just sign in with a position of con. So if nothing else, please go to the bill. Please sign as con if you're a consumer or you're a grower or a producer or a lover of the plant and of nature. Please go and tell them, con, this is a bad idea, if you're unable to attend. Instructions are below or above. The key is legislators need to be bombarded with emails all over, letting them know that this would literally decimate the industry. And why would this decimate the industry? A 1 milligram serving size and a 3 milligram per container in SB 5366, also known as this bill, would literally make it so that, I'll put it like this, our most recent full spectrum that we use is around 500 milligrams of CBD, other components of terpenes and cannabinoids, and the THC level in it is 250 milligrams. It's tiny. It's super, super tiny, actually 25 milligrams compared to the 500 milligrams, right? So if I'm making a 500 milligram product for a CBD product, it's already at the 0.3%. So the 25 milligrams is if it was 0.30 or 30 milligrams, it would already be at the 0.3%. So I can put that straight in there and be totally good. We're still compliant. But that's 0.23. What they're saying is They want to get it down to 0.25 a serving. They want to have it so ridiculously small that they want to 0.3 milligrams, not even 30, 0.3 milligrams per container. I couldn't even put the material that we use inside our bottle. That's how ridiculous this is. And they're making it so that you literally can't have a full spectrum product, if this really truly is the issue. Now, this is where it gets kind of confusing, all right? The fact is, in the wording in this bill, this is the part that I take an issue with. And I asked Bonnie Joe as well, what is the issue here? Are they talking about the recreational 502 industry, or they're talking about the complete industry all the way across? The bill also says this rulemaking authority does not include the authority to enact rules regarding either the either the production or processing practices of the industrial hemp industry or any cannabidiol products that are sold or marketed outside of the regulatory framework established under the chapter section RCW. So this says, at the end of the bill, it does say that it's not going to affect any of the industrial regulations, the Farm Bill from 2018, and the further bills that they've created. But the problem is that once standards are created in the government, oftentimes those standards are utilized later on. And we do know that government shit rolls downhill. It never gets better. It always gets worse. Nearly always. And at least with this, it's pretty much always gotten worse. So the issue here is that we have to stand up for a plant, and we have to stand up for companies. And I really hope that all of you will take a moment. It's not a petition. It's literally just go in and make your voice heard by saying con. You can come down and you can speak in person at the hearing. The information will be above or below. Please check it out if you possibly can. Please care, because this has already gone too far. The fact that they don't want to have CBD in food, they want to regulate it in food. And again, there needs to be certain standards, but the industry always regulates itself out. If there is spinach that has been infected, not infected, but it has contaminants on it, right? I mean, how many times have we seen a spinach scare where people are getting sick off spinach? Not so much meat, but vegetables that haven't been cleaned properly. That gets pulled immediately from the market, and that company has to deal with the repercussions of that. Either they heal that very quickly, they don't have a big scare because they've caught it right when it started happening, or you deal with what you've created out there. So we don't need any regulatory body coming out and telling us what to do, because if you screw up, people are going to know. You can't hide that for very long. We do self-regulate perfectly fine. And the food regulation is a big issue because there was a gray area for a while with CBD about 4 years back. And everybody was just about ready to watch this thing shift into allowing CBD into food because it's already in drinks, it's already in gummies, it's already in pills. Those are all edibles. Pretty much so many things are ingestibles out there, but they say you can't put them in it. Why? Because they weren't sure how to regulate it before. And then Epidiolex, what a great synthetic form of cannabis. Marinol, all these things. Just take the real plant. Get the real damn thing. Don't take pharmaceuticals. Don't take fake versions of the stuff. It makes you even worse. Sorry, it's a fake version of the plant. You want the real thing. So the problem is Epidiolex came out, and they were the first company to make a pharmaceutical drug out of CBD. And then, I'm sorry, if something's been being used before it was a drug, and then somebody makes a drug out of it, not proactive. It's not retroactive. It's not going to go back and make your CBD product or the idea of this ingredient a drug now. No, it was a food additive. It was a product. It's hemp seeds. We're all eating these things. Hemp hearts, hemp oils. We've been eating these things forever, for time immemorial, actually, for thousands of years. You don't get to make a drug and then retroactively go back and say, oh, well, it's a drug now, so you can't use it in food. No. That's not how this works, FDA. It's a food product, and then y'all made a drug? Great. Go use it as a drug. You don't get to put your regulations on other things. That's not how this works. And so this is why these things are such a freaking problem. That's why I have such a problem. That's why I'm so heated about it right now, because they're so confused. They're so lost in their own delusions of control. They need to get over it and just let the plant be, let Mother Nature be, let it do its own thing. Let us self-regulate our own things. That's what government's supposed to be for. Not for government, not mind control, but for self-governance is what we need. And for them to help out a little bit, that would be great. That's my rant for that. And another reason they want to do this stuff is because I'm guessing and I'll ask the question tomorrow, they want to help make sure that children are protected. And so far in all my research, yes, there are definitely plenty of occurrences where a kid or a dog got into your brownies or ate your gummies or things like that. That's on you for not being responsible enough to put your stuff in a right place. Or your kid gets into shit. It just happens, all right? So that happens. So just be a little bit more responsible, a little more cognizant of where you're putting things and how you're doing things. And some children's need THC. Epilepsy, RSO, full spectrum extract, FICO. That stuff works immediately. How many videos have we watched of dogs and children taking a little taste of it and immediately their seizures stop? All right, so sometimes the strong medicine, the real thing, the full spectrum, the full plant is needed immediately. No regulations, strong as you can get it. And sometimes these regulations get in the way of that and make it so a parent can't get the medication that they need, the help, the real plant they need for their children. Regulations get in the way a hell of a lot more than they actually help. And so with children, there are some stories out there. Not a lot, but there are some stories, plenty of stories of children getting into THC and having to get hospitalized because they're high, they're dealing with it. They're not going to die from it. Nobody dies from THC. Nobody dies. Nobody's ever died from cannabis. It doesn't happen. It's not like an opiate. It doesn't shut down the breathing process in our receptor sites and our nerve endings in our spinal column. It doesn't do this. It doesn't affect our respiratory. All right, so you can't die from it. You can definitely overdose, get way too high from it. The only story pertaining to CBD that I've ever read, I just tried to look it up again. It was on a blog, it was on some email that I get, and I couldn't find it. But there's only one story I've ever seen about CBD where a child was hurt from it. And the story goes, it was actually in Washington State. There was a couple that had got some CBD out of state for their child, and the child took it. The child was hospitalized for some reason. They went and tested the product, and what they found in the product was synthetic CBD, not the real thing, fake CBD, which brings me to another point. There's another thing in this bill at the very end where Bonnie let us know that they're also trying to pass the ability for this bill also allows CBD from yeast and orange peels to be produced synthetically and used. This is a companion bill, HB 1612 in the House, that has not been scheduled for hearing yet, but they want to make it so that you can actually use synthetic CBD in products. Of course, it's got to be directly written on the product. You have to be notified of it, but we don't need synthetic stuff. The plant, it's called cannabinoid, cannabis. Any plant could have had cannabinoids and could have been the ones that got the endocannabinoid system, the ECS system, applied to our bodies. But our bodies lit up the most with this plant, the cannabis plant, so thereby cannabinoids, the ECS endocannabinoid system, got named after cannabis. This plant is specifically full of cannabinoids, more so than any other plant out there. There's a bunch of other exogenous cannabinoids, and there's endogenous cannabinoids inside of us that are lit up as well. And so it's a very important plant to take care of, and we need to get out of the way of this thing. I'm losing my train of thought now at this point. But again, it's just sad that there is artificial stuff that they always want to do, and I guarantee the reason for them doing this is because the pharmaceutical companies want to make it even harder for people to access the true medicine, the true health, the true natural answers that they're looking for without having to go to pharmaceuticals. That's my last thought. Check out the information. Please go and vote con against this bill. And if you go there tomorrow down to Olympia, I'll see you there. Love y'all.